Hey guys, welcome back. We're in my garage now with my new lift, and I'm changing the oil on my wife's car, the S550. This is a 2016 black on black performance package Mustang GT. This is quite simple when you have a lift. I love it. It's going to require one 15mm wrench, and you're going to have an access door up under here. Come here, cameraman. That's going to allow us to get to the fuel filter, okay? And we just removed this little access panel. It takes a little 7mm. I'm just going to use a wrench. You could use a socket. You could use whatever you want. That will fold down. We'll get We'll get the oil filter out. We'll clean everything up. We'll reinstall the new filter. We'll drain this out. Then we'll lower the car back down. Add the oil. She'll be as good as new. Let's take a look at this S550 chassis real quick, though. Especially compared to all the older Fox body chassis, you can just see how much beefier they've increased this. It's practically almost a full-framed car these days. I would say it's almost not even a unibody anymore. The way they structural this all the way down right to the bitter end. I shouldn't say bitter end, right to the very end. Of course, it's my wife's car, so she doesn't want me to, but I would love to change the exhaust on this thing. It's fine for women, but for us guys, we know that it's got to go. But for the most part, these chassis are pretty impressive looking, especially I'm an old Fox body guy. When I was in high school, you know, the 86 GT was the car to have. The 85 with the carburetor was also a very nice ride. Tells you how old I am. But they've come a long way with now these independent rear suspension. There's a few things you'd want to change out to decrease wheel hop. But I'll tell you, from the factory, these things are pretty amazing. So let's get started here on my new setup. I'm going to pop that loose. We'll let this oil drain out. And we'll catch back up with you guys as soon as we're putting it on the ground. All right, I want to come back in before I go set the car back down and just add the oil and check it and start it. I want to talk a little bit about, it takes a FL500S filter on the S550 chassis. And again, as I was saying, you'll have to remove just this little panel here, and the filter's way up there. I did notice something I wish Ford probably would have done different. It's maybe made a little bit better access to drainage. So just make sure when you're changing the filter, if you're doing it yourself, if you're taking it to somewhere, you know, you're kind of at their mercy. But if you do it yourself, just make sure you reach up in there and everything and dry it off real good, because there's just a couple of cables in the way and you don't want oil to just sit here and gather and then of course cause blow by as you drive down the road. And then just make sure you get the oil filter on tight enough and you should be good to go. So anyway, we'll catch you on top side. Alright, so now we're adding the oil back in the top, and you know, these cars, unlike the little bit older ones, the 2015 on up mimics a little bit more of the Boss 302. These take 8 quarts of oil. So if you are going to do an oil change, make sure, and this is the cheapest way to go, don't buy them quart by quart. They're like $8 a quart. Buy the big 5 quart. It's a lot cheaper to do it this way. You'll save probably $8, so at least a quart of oil. So I buy 2 of these at a time, and I just check for top off, especially on the break-in period. And believe it or not, people, you can break in an engine with synthetic oil. That's an old myth. They get dispelled all the time. So I've already added 5 quarts. I'm going to add the remaining 3. We'll start it, check it, and we will go from there. So see. Alright, so as you can see, we swapped out cars. I got the wife's car all done. We're going to work on my current daily driver, but soon to be my daughter's car next year this time. The chassis aren't bad. If the cameraman will follow me under here, you can see compared to the Fox body, which is the white car out there, and I say Fox body because even though it's an SN95 chassis, it's still a Fox 4 chassis. It's pretty much the same chassis from 79 to 93. They've changed the outer skin, and they did some improvements to strengthen torsional rigidity through the car, but otherwise it's pretty much the same thing. Here though, just like the S550, we have these channels coming all the way back through the entire length of the car. This gives it a little bit more similarity to like a full frame car, but keeping the weight down. And I walk through here and I just see a lot more sophistication compared to the older Mustangs. Not near as much sophistication as like the new S550, but this S197 is leaps and bounds ahead of that older style. If you look up here, you can see where we went ahead and added a beefier sway bar. We did all the suspension. I did the bump steer kit. Next, I want to get some bigger GT500 brakes on the car. If you come to the back, we went with full tubular JMS tubular control arms. Again, the Eibach Pro setup with springs, shocks, their version of the sway bar. And again, I went with a fully adjustable upper control arm from the JMS line. So far so good. I'll tell you what's still upsetting though, is when we swapped everything over on this car, there's still that massive clunk. And on the last video I was talking about that. I said bump, what I mean is clunk. And again, I think I've narrowed it down, and I do believe it's going to be, if the cameraman will look up here, I think these are just, come up here cameraman, look right over here where my finger's at. I think these are the problem. When you go over a bump, they just clink and bang. So I'm going to swap these out, and I hope to get rid of the problem. If this doesn't solve it, I'm going to have to call somebody, but you know, we've got all new shocks and struts, so looks like I'm dealing with a slight oil leak, so I will have to replace the oil pan gasket. This is a high mileage car. It's got 150,000 on it. It still drives nice, and also the cam phasers are starting to make a lot of racket, so I'll swap those with the new set, and we'll probably cover that in the following month. But I'm going to get aggressive on Project White Fang and get that thing on the road real soon. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to finish this oil change up. Once again, this series just is kind of complementing the fact that I now have a full 2-post lift in my garage. And it's so much cooler working on a car like this than getting up and down out of the ground. So this was probably the best investment I've done when it comes to tools to work on a car. So it's definitely well worth it if you can afford the extra $2 grand. Which maybe to some might sound like a lot, but I'll tell you, to me, it's worth its weight in gold. So, yeah, until next time, we're going to get this finished up. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all again.